Well, hello there, everyone. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone is having a fabulous April. This is a big week for a lot of folks because our Q1 estimated tax payments are due tomorrow, Thursday, April 15th. So if you are still working on those, I am sending you lots of love. I know sometimes that can be not so fun. But I wanted to pop in here for our monthly Q&A. I know this month has been a little bit funky, and I apologize for that. We had originally intended on having our regular monthly workshop, and then just got a lot of feedback that it felt like a lot this month. People were dealing with taxes and just some other stuff. So we opted to move that. So we obviously are not having a workshop this month, April. We're going to have one in May. We've got lots of workshops from past months. So if you're like itching for content, definitely go back and check it out. There's plenty of different topics that we've covered, and then we're going to have our regular workshop in May. We are also not having a hot seat next week. Our entire team is taking the week off, so we will not be here next week. So this is kind of our time really to dive in. We've got some great questions from folks. So hopefully this is enough for folks. If you feel like you need more support, if for any reason you're trying to work through some stuff and you just feel like, wish we're having that hot seat or whatever, you didn't make it to the Q&A, go ahead and post in the group. And like I said, the team is out next week, but we'll make sure we get you an answer the following week. I just want to make sure you feel supported because I know this month is a little bit funny. And we also don't generally like to change things when we're kind of in the middle of it. We like to tell you in advance so that you can plan and prepare. And we didn't do that. I apologize for that. I think this was our first April, tax month, if you will, with the membership being live. And so I think we've learned some lessons. So next year, we'll know better. We'll do some things a little bit differently. We also, had a big issue with tax day. I appreciate everyone reaching out and the concern. We weren't able to go ahead with tax day due to some personal stuff going on the team. Again, if you feel like you aren't getting enough support, if you feel like you need some help, please reach out. You can comment on this post. You can email us at support@megkwheeler.com. Even though we are going to be out of the office next week, we are going to be intermittently checking email. So if it's an emergency, if there's something urgent, just write urgent in your subject line so we know. But again, I just want to make sure all of our members feel supported. So I apologize for all the bumps this month. We're figuring it out. We're going to, make sure we know certainly for next year, but also just kind of going into the next month and make sure you get everything you need. So all right, I want to pop in. We've got some great questions here that I want to get answered. Just as a reminder for everyone, if you ever have questions for our monthly Q&As, you can submit them by going to megkwheeler.com/Q&A. Again, we do these every month. I will tell you, we've got some really big changes coming to the membership that I'm really excited about. And I'm looking at my team calendar right now because I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure we're rolling them out. Hold on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So our goal is to roll them out by May 1st, but I'm going to be honest with you, because this tax season has been so nutty. Like, y'all, we just got guidelines 4 days ago that another thing was changing on the tax returns because of COVID-19 and different benefits going out. So because this has been a very crazy season, if we can't feel like we can roll out these changes well by May 1st, we're going to push it. So our original goal, the goal we've been working on for 6 months, is May 1st. And I actually think we might make it. I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting we won't make it, but I'm just throwing that out there that as we're still like knee deep in taxes, which we didn't expect to be because so much has changed, just sort of know that, May 1st is still our goal, but we want to make sure we do this right. And so we may push it if we need to. But we've got a lot of exciting changes coming to the membership, including how we do Q&As, how often we do Q&As. So all of that will be shared with you once we roll that out. So it's all going to be good. It's all going to be more supportive, not less supportive. But I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. The first question, and I don't actually have my sheet up to see who submitted these, so I apologize for that. But the first question says, I just got an email from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, saying that I might be eligible for more loan funds. Is this something I should do? Yeah, I love this question. So I got the same email, which is exciting. So I think the person asking this is referring to the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is a loan program that the SBA offers. Actually, by the way, they offer it all the time. It wasn't set up for COVID. It already existed. But in order to get loans under this program, you have to be a small business, but you also have to be in the middle of an economic disaster, basically. So a lot of times we'll see these come up when there's like a huge storm, like a Hurricane Katrina, something like that. Certainly COVID-19 qualifies. And the government certifies, hey, this qualifies. So it's not like me just saying, I'm in the middle of a disaster. It's got to be a government certified disaster. But the SBA has been offering these EIDL loans during COVID-19. And the benefit, there's a few benefits of them, but number one, they tend to be easier to get approved. So you don't have to go through as much legwork, and you don't have to have great credit and all these different things. So they tend to be slightly easier to get approved. The second thing is the interest rates are very low. I think it's 3.25% or 3.5% is the interest rate. Excuse me. And the loan terms are pretty long, depends on how much you take, but the loan terms can be 15 plus years. So they can be pretty great options, especially when you're in the middle of an economic disaster and you really need to get working capital into your business. So that, excuse me. So that's the purpose of them. So what the SBA did, or I guess what the rules were when people started getting them for COVID-19, was that you could take up to 6 months of essentially working capital. And when they look at the way they determined this, is they would look at your Schedule C, which is where we report our business profits. They would look at your Schedule C from the last tax return you had filed, which for a lot of folks was 2019 because we hadn't filed 2020 yet. So they would look at that, and then they would take the total sales number. So not the total profit. They didn't care so much about your expenses, but the total sales number. And you would be eligible to get up to 6 months of that. So if your total sales for the year was $24,000, that would be $2,000 a month. You would get $12,000. That would be your loan amount, potentially your loan amount. I mean, there could be other limitations. What they have recently done is come out and said, we're actually going to grant up to 24 months. So for that same person I just described, instead of qualifying for $12,000, 6 months, they could now potentially qualify for $48,000, 2 years. This is a big deal because a lot of businesses are still very much struggling because of COVID-19, are still very much in the depths of this. And it doesn't look like they're going to come out of it in the next month. There's going to be some rebuilding time. So that's essentially why the SBA has done this, is because they've said, we recognize that we're still in the middle of this. We recognize there's going to be some rebuilding time. We want to give you a long enough runway to have money, to have funds to be able to support your business. So the way that in order to qualify for this, you need to already have had an SBA EIDL loan. I do believe you can still apply new, from scratch from the beginning, but the email that this person is talking about specifically is to folks who already have loans. So if you're going to start from scratch, that's fine. You're just going to go through the whole loan process. For those of us who already have loans, the instructions are in the email, so I won't go through them verbatim, but essentially what you do is you actually send an email to the SBA basically saying, hi, I would like to increase my loan amount. And it's supposed to be a significantly easier process because you've already been approved. So it's really just going through and then making sure you still qualify and kind of making sure that the amount is correct. And then they'll change your loan amount. So the question is, well, should I do this? Now, here's the thing I would say. So first and foremost, this is a loan. It's not a grant. You do have to pay this money back. It is a low interest rate, but it's still an interest rate. So you need to keep that in mind. I know a lot of folks who took this loan and just have let the money sit there. And I think that that's fine. I get that. You want to kind of keep a cash cow just in case stuff happens. The one thing I will say is keep in mind that even while it's sitting there, interest is accruing. So one of the benefits of this loan is that payments initially weren't actually going to be due until, I think it was a year. No, it was 10 months. I think it was 10 months after your loan, or maybe it was a year after your loan was dispersed. Well, now they've extended that. And I actually believe it's been extended to next year. So basically the first loan payments won't start until next year. And again, it depends on when your loan was dispersed. So for a lot of us, we're not going to make a payment on this loan for 2 years, but interest is still accruing during that time. That balance is going up. It's not going down because we're not paying anything towards it. So if you took the money out and it's just sitting in your bank account, you're paying interest for the convenience and the comfort of having that money sitting there. Now, some of you may say, I'm good with that, because if shit hits the fan, I want to know that I've got money in the bank and I'm okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just understand the cost of that decision. Other people maybe didn't realize that interest was actually accruing. And so you may want to think about that. Now, that's if you're having it just sit there. I know a lot of you got the loan funds and use the loan funds, which is totally fine. In that case, if you still feel like there's a need for more loan funds, then absolutely go ahead and get those funds. But the most important thing for you to do is to make sure, build into your budget the repayment of this loan. Make sure you have sufficient funds to repay this loan. So if you take out a loan that's going to have $1,000 a month payment, you got to make sure you can afford that payment. So whatever that number is, and you can find it in your loan documents, I just want to make sure that you've built that into your plan and that you can afford that. So I guess the bottom line really is, should you take the extra money? If you understand and are comfortable with the cost, the interest of this extra money, if you have a purpose for it, whether that is to just give you comfort that you've got cash in case something happens, or you actually have operating expenses you need to pay, okay. And if you're going to be disciplined enough to not just go spend it on stuff you don't need, but, and to kind of do right by your business, if you will. Now, I do want to mention also that the SBA loan funds have to be used for certain things. So you cannot use them to expand your business. You cannot use them to profit your shareholders, or your owners. It's got to be used for operating expenses, working capital. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take the funds if you have plenty of cash to pay your operating expenses. It just means that when you use those funds, you need to make sure that you use them for that purpose. There are some other requirements, by the way, if you do take the funds and you don't use them right away. There are some requirements, like if you have profits in the business, that you can't necessarily do stuff with those profits before you pay back the loan. I'll let you read your loan agreement. If you have questions, bring them back here. But the long story short is, do I think it's a good idea to take the extra funds? Possibly. But I want to make sure you've got a purpose for it. You understand the cost of doing so, and you're going to be disciplined about how you use those funds. Cool? All right, my friend, let's move on to the next question. I'm confused about whether I should wait to file my tax return or not. Someone, maybe you, mentioned that we should wait because of the unemployment. Yeah, it very well could have been me. So plus everyone else. So there have been a lot of changes to the 2020 tax forms and tax laws as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. At this point, so we're recording this on April 14th of 2021. At this point, most, if not all of those changes have been incorporated into the tax filing systems, whether you use like a TurboTax to DIY it yourself, or you pay someone and they use a tax preparation software. I'm saying most because for the most part, that's true. But as is the case with any tech or any software and any last minute changes, it doesn't mean everything's working correctly. I've been back and forth with support for our tax prep software for the last few weeks, trying to make sure that these changes are getting recorded correctly. So at this point, could you go ahead and file? Yes, I think so. What I would say is make sure when you file that you are checking that the items that are specific to 2020 and have tax benefits, check that they are being treated appropriately. So you mentioned unemployment. The unemployment thing is that if your adjusted gross income for the year is less than $150,000, that you can exempt up to $10,200 of unemployment income from tax. It's a huge benefit. So make sure that that's reporting correctly on your return. A few other changes, in fact, I talked about these just a few minutes ago in the Q&A I do in our free group. If you are going to take the option to defer your self-employment Social Security taxes, which is a COVID-19 benefit that they've put through. If you're going to take that option, make sure you're taking that. If you would normally have to repay excess advance premium tax credits, that's been suspended. Make sure that that amount is not being shown as a payment that you owe on your tax return. So that is my recommendation. I don't think you need to wait at this point. It seems like all of the changes have been pushed through, but I would just check to make sure that they are all being reflected on your return. If you're working with a tax preparer, have that conversation with them. Say, hey, can you just show me exactly where this is happening? I want to make sure this is happening. If you already filed your 2020 returns and you didn't do the unemployment benefit, you didn't do the suspension of excess advance premium tax credit, don't stress. The IRS has said that they will recalculate your return and send you whatever money is owed back to you. The only thing I will say about that is, let's just say it's the $10,200 in unemployment benefits. They will send you back what you overpaid on that. But if that change would have lowered your income so that you would qualify for other deductions or credits, they're not going to calculate those. So what I recommend you do is you let the IRS do their recalculation, send you back the money they think they owe you, kind of that whole system, and then amend your tax return if there are other excuse me, other credits that you now qualify for that you didn't previously. But to be clear, if it's just for the unemployment tax benefit or it's just for the suspension of the excess advanced premium tax credit, do not amend your return. The IRS will recalculate for you. They will send you the amount that you are owed. Cool? All right. All right, next question. I know that quarterlies are due this week, but I'm really confused about how to do my calculation and what to pay. Am I screwed if I don't pay anything? Yeah, it's a great question. So first and foremost, in terms of how to do the calculation and what to pay, we are going to be adding a new quarterly tax calculator to the membership portal. We wanted to get it out by Q1. I will be honest with you, because of all the tax changes, it didn't happen. And I'm very sorry for that. There's just so much changing right now, and it just became, we're continuing to update, but we still have things we have to add in because we're still waiting on guidance for some stuff. So we're going to get that in there. Once that's up there, there's a video walkthrough. I recommend using that to do your calculation. You can also, and I will drop this in the link right now. Give me 1 second. Let me just find this link. The IRS actually has a form too. I find it a little confusing, which is why we created the calculator, but by all means, you can use this form. It's perfectly, adequate. And so I'm going to drop this link in here. So if you're like in a race and you've got to get something calculated for tomorrow, then definitely use this form. Your question of, am I screwed if I don't pay anything? The answer is no, you're not screwed. The worst thing that happens is you end up owing some penalties when you file your return next year if you have a balance outstanding. I will tell you this. And actually on this link that I just dropped, it also has the safe harbor rules as well, which is what I'm about to talk about. So there's something called the safe harbor. And we talk about this in the membership. I'm forgetting what month, but we've uploaded a video on this. So just go back and look through the videos. You should find it. Excuse me. The safe harbor rule basically says that as long as you have paid in at least 90% of your current year tax liability or 100% of your prior year tax liability, you won't be subject to penalties. You'll still owe the tax you owe, but you won't have penalties on underpaying it. It's 110%, not 100% of prior year if your adjusted gross income is over $150,000. So what I would recommend for you, if you're like, I don't know how to do this calculation for Q1, this is overwhelming, I just can't handle it. Look at your total tax owed, not what you end up paying, but your total tax owed. It's line, hold on, I can tell you in a second, like 40 something. Total tax owed on your 2020 tax return, divide it by 4 and make sure you've paid in at least that amount. It is line, I was totally wrong. 24, total tax, line 24 in your form 1040. So whatever that number is, divide by 4, and that's what you need to have paid in by April 15th to qualify under the safe harbor. Now, remember, if you've got wage or W-2 income, or you have a spouse that has that, or anywhere else where tax is being withheld, factor that in. Okay, like make sure you take that off of that amount that you owe. But that's what I would do. But the bottom line is, no, you are not screwed. Worst case, you're going to get hit with some penalties. I will tell you the penalties are not huge, especially if you end up making payments later in the year. Like they're the worst when you haven't paid anything in and you owe a ton. But I would not stress about not getting something paid by April 15th or, not paying it enough. But again, what I would recommend to you is look at the safe harbor, look at your 2020 tax return, figure out what 100% of that number is, pay 25% of it in, and call it a day. So, all right, my friends, that is all we have for questions today. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Just a reminder, you can always submit questions to megkwheeler.com/QA. And again, this month is a little bit funky. I'm really grateful for your patience on that. Apologies that we've just, we kind of learned some things this month. I will not be here next week for a hot seat. Our team is taking the whole week off. But if you need support, please post in the membership group. Otherwise, we will be back in May. It's not going to be exactly our normal schedule because, like I said, some things are changing, assuming we do the rollout on May 1st, but we will let you know. You'll get an email, plenty of advance warning. So hope everybody has a fabulous rest of April. I hope tax season is going well for you, and I will see you all in May. Bye.